Hi y'all, welcome back to the garden. I have had a busy and crazy past few days trying to get some annuals in the ground, and that'll be a separate video. It's raining a lot in the afternoons this week potentially, so I don't have long before the rain starts, but I want to take you to bug school. I am participating in a really cool activity this year, and that is Heirloom Roses Beneficial Insect Program. And so this is a new program that they started this year. Anyone can sign up for it. There's not really any programs out there in the United States that you can get beneficial insects at your home. If you've been following my channel the past couple of years, I've taken you to nurseries in the spring and showed you that a lot of those nurseries are starting to use like sachets or releasing beneficial insects into their greenhouses to prevent pest and to control pest rather than using chemicals. So a few weeks ago, all the Heirloom Roses brand ambassadors got on a call and we learned from the bug expert at Heirloom Roses, and I'm going to show you how these come if you decide to order them and what to expect. So it is a monthly subscription. It is used as an alternative to chemical sprays, whether organic or inorganic, so your neem oils, which is organic, or inorganic like permethrin, pyrethrin, imidacloprid, that type thing. So Heirloom's program is targeted for the United States generally, so whether you're in Ohio like I am or you're in California, the insects that they are providing, the beneficial insects, are really tiny for the most part, but they will work in all of our locations across the state. So it's a broadly tailored program. And I'm going to go over a couple of the bugs right quick because obviously that's the most interesting part. And I've got a little cheat sheet here for me because they're pretty complicated and I had never really heard of some of these insects before. So the first one we have is 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, which is a small insect that controls spider mites, thrips, and other mites. They come in sachets, which last 5 to 7 weeks, and if there are no prey for it to find, so there are no spider mites, they can survive on pollen, and they're only 0.5 millimeters in size. So a lot of these bugs you may not even be able to see with your naked eye, but they will be combating insects in your garden that will harm your roses or some of your other plants. So I actually got one of these sachets last month in April, towards the mid to end of April, and I put them all throughout the garden. You may have seen a couple of them in videos hanging here and there. Because here in Southwest Ohio, I have had some issues with spider mites on my boxwoods. So I did hang some of those on boxwoods, and I'll be doing some more of that today in various parts of the garden. And so these things, 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, tend to thrive best in cooler weather. When it gets warmer, Heirlooms has tailored the program so that in July, they send out a insect called 𝗟𝗏𝗛𝗃𝗃 instead. And those primarily eat spider mites as well, but they will feed on a variety of other mites. They're very aggressive. They prefer the eggs, but they'll eat all mites and can lay themselves up to 2 eggs per day to have some beneficial insect persistence in your garden. The third one, which is really cool, and I don't know that I've ever seen one in my garden before, but are green lacewings. They're a smaller one that are slightly bigger than some of the others that you can actually see with your eye, and really kind of a beautiful bug. And it's called lacewing because its wings are really lacy, and they can travel a little further than some of the beneficial insects given in this program, so they'll cover a broader range of your garden. They're capable of laying up to 600 eggs themselves during their life cycle, and alone during their life cycle consuming 300 to 400 aphids. So that's a lot of aphids for such a tiny bug. The next one is 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, and they consume aphids primarily, and they're capable of laying up to 100 eggs per adult and attack 300 to 400 aphids as well during their life cycle. And 𝗟𝗏𝗃𝗃, which is a predatory wasp, and these are tiny, tiny wasps. So when I say wasps, they're not going to harm you or sting you if you get this beneficial insect program. They're there to target bugs, and so they're very tiny. They're a 50th of an inch, so really small, and they lay their eggs inside of caterpillar larvae. And in Heirloom Roses program, they provide 3 species of 𝗟𝗏𝗃𝗃 per sachet or tag that they give you. So you're getting quite a lot of insects based on the tags. So how this program works, you can order it online. I'll provide a link below in the comments and in the description. They will send you in the middle of each month. I think it's around this time of month, so the 14th, 15th of every month. They ship out on Wednesday to everyone, and they arrive at your home on Friday, and then the goal is to get those out in the garden almost immediately. They come in a tiny box like this from Heirloom Roses, and on the top it says live insects, handle with care. You'll notice the foil here. It does have a little packet inside of like a dry ice. It's a refrigerator packet, but that is simply to keep the bugs in hibernation mode until they arrive at your house. If the packet comes melted or anything, there's nothing to worry about. Those are just trying to help out and stabilize during transit. There's a little beneficial insects guide, so a lot of the things I told you in here is listed in this little sachet. And then you have the actual bugs. So these are little cards that you can tear apart, and they're cut here, and I'll show you, and we'll go hang some of these together. So you can hang them on the branches of your plants, on your roses. In my case, I've hung some of them on boxwoods, as I've mentioned, on some of my hydrangeas. There's bigger sachets. This is the 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, so the ones that attack primarily spider mites early in the season. You can see how big those sachets are. And I actually have 2 packets of those, so this is 10 total sachets. That's a lot of 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲. You get a little sachet of 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 here, and you flip this little flap, hang it, and they escape from this little sachet and go throughout your garden. And the last one here is the green lacewing. So they apply some type of glue here across the strip, and it's covered in eggs. And you hang these little sachets just like all the others. There's a little cut in them here to hang freely on the branches, and they persist in your garden. Now, you want to get these into your garden pretty quickly after they're delivered. They recommend same day. Of course, if you can't get them out same day, like it's raining, it'll be okay the next day, but you want to get them out there quickly. This program is targeted primarily to around a 500 square foot space. You can, of course, hang them in various aspects of your garden. I have a really big garden, probably more than 500 square feet, but I've been strategically placing them on plants that I know have issues. And so I've got some in the front garden bed here. I hung a few in the cut flower garden, and then I put a few tags in the back around the patio to target any pest in that space I started establishing last fall. So let's go hang a few of these things up and see what I'm talking about. So we're going to start with the green lacewings. I would recommend you pre-tear these sheets. It just makes it a little easier applying them in the garden to tear them all at once. And you want to avoid touching the actual place where the eggs are, not for your own safety, but for the bug safety. You could crush them, and then obviously those would not emerge from the eggs, and then you would be out of some of the beneficial insects you ordered. So I have all of the little packets torn out in here, and we're gonna start in the cut flower garden. I put a couple of these on the roses in the cut flower garden when I planted the roses several weeks ago, but I don't think I had enough to do all varieties. I used a lot in the rest of the garden to try and build up that population before the gardening season got underway. And we're gonna start there because I want those roses to thrive. Now, a lot of you may have questions on Japanese beetles or June bugs, like we called them when I was a kid. There aren't a whole lot of great resources and things available to handle Japanese beetles that are not dangerous to existing insects, beneficial, or pests in your garden. So right now there's not a beneficial insect out there that will target those. One thing you should avoid using if you're going to have beneficial insects in your garden is neem oil. Neem oil is an organic chemical, but that does not mean and equate organic with safe for all insects. So neem oil works by smothering and interrupting the life cycle of insects, and so not only will that affect and target bad bugs, but that'll also affect and target your beneficials. So if you're using a program like this, it's better to stick maybe with like an insecticidal soap or something of that sort, because if you're spraying neem oil on anything, you're really not getting the benefits of beneficial insects persisting in your garden. So you can see there's a card hanging over there. I'm going to hang a lacewing on this little rose here. Now, these protecting them from rain is helpful as well. These roses don't have a huge canopy yet, but I'm going to stick it under the canopy of this rose so it can be protected best it can from the rain. We're getting some storms over the next couple days, but that will help keep all of these eggs on this card safe. So the green lacewings that are on this tag can travel in this garden space. I think it said they can travel up to 100 feet potentially, and that's bigger than this cut flower space. So I'm going to use one card here and I'll spread the rest of them around the rest of the garden. We will hang one of these 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲. It's got a little sachet and there's a tiny, tiny hole in the top for the bugs to emerge. I'm going to put it right here so it can be protected a little bit by this foliage. These roses are starting to grow pretty quickly now that they've been in the ground a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect on here, and of course don't break any limbs trying to get it on there, but securing it in place is really helpful. This rose is the Coco Loco. Look at all that nice foliage. I'm going to place a couple of these sachets on my Limelight Prime hydrangea hedge here. I have not noticed a whole lot of pest pressure on hydrangeas in my area, but I do have a lot of these 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 available to put in here, and those target spider mites, so if they could proliferate around the backyard to protect some of the other things back here, that would be great. And these hydrangeas are looking so full, so these sachets will be protected by rain quite well under here, and I have drip in this location so we don't have to worry about any overhead watering. Let's get that on there. There we go. So you can see this boxwood needs to be trimmed, but you can also see the damage from the other house. See all of that spider mite damage, all of that speckling. All of the new growth looks pretty good. I'm going to put some of these 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 in there to protect against further spider mite issues. And we're just going to tuck that in the center of the boxwood so when I go trimming on it, it will be out of the way, and hopefully these will proliferate really well in this boxwood and I won't have any issues with spider mites this season, and it can recover nicely. Now we got this big beloved boxwood, which I put one of these 𝗟𝗟𝗏𝗏 in last time, somewhere in here. It's hidden a bit now. There it is. I'm going to put another one here. That way these can make sure they persist here, because this was quite a jewel of a plant last year when I won it in the auction and got it planted. They told me it was probably 20 years old or more, dug from their field. You can see how big it is, and it survived winter really well. It's a little bit of brown that needs to be clipped out and a little bit of leaves that have dropped, but it's transitioning really nicely. So I liken this process very much like an Easter egg hunt. Last month, as I told you, I went around and placed a bunch of them, so I can't remember exactly where all I placed some of those. Some of them are really fine paper cards, so they'll just disintegrate over time. The paper sachets you can collect later in the season after they've been there for a while. But it's really fun, and you just kind of tuck them away and hide them. Like I said, protect them from as much sun really and rainfall that you can, so they develop really well and protect your garden. Before we go, I'm going to show you a couple rose blooms, because that's why we're here, right? So my heirloom roses are getting settled in, and so none of them are blooming quite yet. Probably a couple more weeks and we'll start having some buds on those. But this is 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏 Honey Apricot by Proven Winners. It was a new one added to the line last year or the year before. Yesterday I came out here and I posted a video on Instagram of the blooms, and today so many more of them have opened. I mean, look how many are on. Now this is a trio of roses, so there's 1, 2, 3, but these were just planted in the fall from 1-gallon containers, and I love this color. Like, this is quintessentially like my favorite color of roses. Super roughly petals. The 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏 series at Proven Winners is edible. A lot of roses are edible anyway, but these were bred for their scent, and mostly their scent, but somewhat their taste. And this is supposed to have a honey apricot kind of flavor if you taste the petals, but it also is a very honey apricot looking bloom. I mean, look at those, so roughly. And every one of them. I'm showing you right now because with all the rain we get this week, I don't know if I'll be able to come out and shoot another video, and they might look a little rough by the end of the week. Over here on the trellis, we have Rise Up 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲. I was a little neglectful of these. You know, I had to dig them up to put this trellis in the ground, and we had a little bit of a dry spell, and I didn't get over here and water them, and they don't get a whole lot of overhead water from the rain or anything. You can see we've had a little rain today and how dry it is, but I've got the drip activated now, so they're receiving regular water, and we got the first nice looking bloom from them anyway. So you can see what kind of color that's going to be against the background here. Now, Rise Up 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 is a short climber, so it's not going to take over this trellis or anything. It may not get as tall as to even touch the top of the trellis, but it does, and the Rise Up series is pretty vigorous. I had lilac days, Rise Up lilac days in the last garden. Really loved it, super vigorous, grew a ton the first season it was planted. So I expect a lot out of this Rise Up series, and this is another one that I think is going to do really well. It's starting to put on a ton of blooms. Like I mentioned, it looks a little rough down there because it was not getting enough water after I dug it up a few weeks ago, and I need to come through and remove some of those brown leaves, but otherwise performing really nice since they were just transitioned or dug up and interrupted in their growth cycle this spring. Now, one I'm really excited to see in the next couple days, and I might be able to see it tomorrow, and I'll try and obviously get video of this one, is Reminiscent Coral. This is also a proven winners variety, and it has very coral color blooms. Look at this bud here, how beautiful that is. And there's several of them. Like, these will probably open in the next day or so, and there's one over there. This is also a trio of 3 that's going to be really beautiful here at the kind of front to mid of this border I'm establishing. All right, I hate to tease you with all of the annuals that I got planted on Saturday, but we're gonna have to stop the video right here because it's about to start raining. I will shoot the next video this week as soon as I can on some of the annuals. I still have quite a bit to plant, including some container designs I'm gonna be showing you that I'm incredibly excited about. And then I'll take you around and walk you through everything and where I planted it. The space is filling out nicely. Today I received some new proven winners perennials from Walter's Gardens that are brand new, not on the market until next year, that I'm gonna be trialing this year. And there are some really gorgeous ones in there. So stick around. Thank you guys for joining me at Bug School. And remember, be a light. Take care. Bye.